Welcome back to The Ether, the show that disrupts the way you think about running your business. Join me, Brandon, and my co-host, Sean Delaney, the creator of What If, on today's episode. Our goal is to provide context around what we talk about so you have the clarity to cut through the noise and the confidence to grow and run a truly harmonious business. Let's jump in and take the next step to achieving business freedom. Business freedom. What's crack-a-lackin', Sean? Yep, that's right. I said it. We're back.
How are you on that side today?
I don't know. I was thinking that. I'm on the wrong side, right?
That's terrible because now I got myself trained to point this way to things on your side. Now it's got to be this. I don't like
Is it backwards for you? Because for me, I'm pointing the wrong way to look at you.
Feels weird. Every now and then I make my wife switch with me which side of the bed we sleep on, so we feel like we're on vacation. It's
I don't
weird.
even know about your sex life, but
on the other,
that's not what's going on here. I just want to clarify that.
all right.
And I am so sorry for our listeners who can't see us, but you should be on YouTube. You should be watching us because we're a couple of goofballs.
No, we've got faces for radio. This is perfect if you can't see us.
We do.
Hi,
well, hey,
Brandon.
we're talking about way more important things than your sex life on vacation. We are talking about SOPs that are going to help you grow your business. I love SOPs. How do you feel about SOPs?
I feel they are the essence of, they are integral to the creation of order in your business.
I agree with that statement.
Yeah. Good. Are we done?
So I've talked to a number of people recently over the past couple of weeks, and everybody says, this buzzword, right? Delegate. And I think we've talked about delegation on the show before. But anyway, I want to delegate. I want to hand off to my people, but they just don't get it. When I tell them what to do, they don't do it right. And I naturally asked the question, well, A, how did you tell them? And was there a reference of how to do what you asked them to do? Every single time. Well, no, I just told them to do it and go send this email or go file this paperwork a certain way. But there's never any supporting documents. And I don't understand how everybody has heard of SOPs, yet very few people do them. And even a smaller percentage do them properly so that their employees know how to leverage them. Do you find that?
Correct. And then when we unpack it frequently, it also might be the case that they are concerned about the how at times when the how doesn't matter as much as the result. Mm-hmm. So you can have that too. People can get too into the SOPs and say, this is exactly how I want it done. Okay. If I invert the order, if I put the peanut butter on the peanut butter side first and then the jelly, I know this says jelly and then peanut butter, but if I switch that, does it change the result of the sandwich? And if the answer is no, then why are you busting my chops about which order I do it? Because maybe I just prefer that. And I can't then, as an employee, optimize myself within the process.
Well, it does, because you have to put jelly on first because it all comes off the knife easier. If you were to put peanut butter first and use that knife in the jelly jar, then you got peanut butter in the jelly jar and it's a whole disaster.
Now, if that matters, that has to be in the SOP, because otherwise people will say, well, it doesn't matter. And I might as well just switch it. Right? Or I've seen people say, so here's the process. I was watching somebody, I was asking somebody, oh man, what were they installing? Fiber optic cable. And they were showing me how I ask a lot of questions, as you know. I said, so how does this, what's the final step of this? I'm like, well, we just add this and do that. I said, no, I want to literally see it. I want to understand how. Oh, he wants to see. So we take this little cutter, we pull the wire, take this little cutter and we snip it. And then we pull this part off, then it exposes the wire. And then we put it through this, then we cut it again, and then we clean it off. And then that's the end. And I said, so why are you cutting it twice? And I said, well, so you cut it first and then you're cleaning it. And then you put it in there again, and then you cut it, and then you clean it. I'm like, I heard you. That sounds like the same step twice. Why are you doing it? What was on the page when they told me I had to do it? Who wrote this? Gary. Let's get Gary. Hey, Gary, why is it cut twice? Well, because you cut it and then you clean it and then you cut it again. I said, yes, but what does that do? Because I don't think that would do anything to the cable except make it shorter and over time waste a lot of cable. So how about this? Let's just do it once and plug the shitting thing in and see if it works. And they're like, okay. So they plugged it in. They go, it works. Go figure. And we only cut it once. Yeah, you only ever were cutting it once. And then you just made it fucking shorter for 2 inches for no reason. So why are we following the process? I was told follow the process. All right. So it's important as an owner to know when I'm telling somebody how to do this, which are these steps that absolutely matter, and then which are the ones that are just the art, and it's just kind of how I like it. Because when you hand things off to people, you're going to get like 80% of the way you would do it, and they're not going to do it exactly the way you do it. And sometimes that matters and sometimes it doesn't. So understand where in the process you can let people feel like they have some wiggle room and where it would really impact things if they didn't follow the process. That's
There's
yeah,
two
so
things
important.
there because you're right. When you hand it off, at least for the first time, I found you're going to get anywhere from 50 to 70% of how you would do it. If you
Mhm.
were the owner of that thing and this is the first time someone else is doing it, 50 to 70% efficiency. Maybe that's even being a little generous. But if this is something they do on a recurring basis, if this becomes their job and you're getting it off your plate for good, they'll be at 110 or 120 or 150% of your capabilities within a very short period of time.
Yeah.
So there's that adoption and training period that we often miss as business owners, where of course the SOP is crucial to training somebody and giving them that resource. But you're not just providing an SOP; you have to provide the autonomy and incentive to then update it. Like you said, where if you say, okay, these steps in the process must be here. It's a legal issue, a compliance, a HIPAA issue. That's fantastic. We don't want to mess with that stuff. But here's where I don't know. There's no real reason we do it this way. If you find a better way, please, we would love to incorporate that into this process. And that's where you can help people understand, okay, this is set in stone. This is where we need your expertise and your
Yeah.
on the job knowledge of doing it better.
Yeah, there's a lot of unfairness with poor leaders that happens with SOPs, whether it's I never gave you any, but I'm just gonna keep yelling at you to do it right. We've seen that. I've seen some tyrannical people, and these are the clients that we jettison as quickly as possible. But one in particular comes to mind when if you did it, if she gave her the information, she literally was saying, "You got to get a handle on this." One woman supporting me. Why? What's going on? She's driving me crazy. Look at this note. It's way too long, too much detail. Who's got time for that? Okay, so I go to her and say, "Are we conveying too much information?" And she said, "Yeah, well, here's the deal. That's because the day before she yelled at me for not giving her enough information. And if I go back one more day, it was I gave her too much. And if I go back a day past that, it was not enough. You just switch the days and she's going to yell at me no matter what." And when confronted with the two styles and her feedback, she was like, "Well, part of her job is to read what I want." Oh my God, get out. Everyone, get out. Pull the fire alarm. But so she wouldn't give her a process because she knew that she herself didn't want to follow a process and didn't want anyone else to follow a process. And so there's that glaring error where we just have people jumping through hoops for the sake of it. Then there's the I did give you a process, and there are all kinds of vanity steps in there where why would I do it? Hey, could I make this more efficient and save the company money? No, you're going to do it the way I told you to do it. You're not paid to think, you're paid to do, right? We've seen those. He's laughing. For those of you who can't see us, can only hear us, he's
We
laughing
might be
because
talking to one of those in
we're
20
going to
minutes.
be talking exactly one of those. I told you to do it the way that's because oh my God. Anyway, I'm stopping myself from saying a lot. So there's that form of it. And then there's yeah, I want to delegate it. I don't know how because there's no real process there. And I'm not really sure how I would tell them to do it. And I say, good, because one of the best things you can do, even if you think you know the process, map it out to the degree that you know that it matters. And then with the actual person who's going to do it, That's when you finalize the process. Because if I'm saying to you, Brandon, here's how I think here's how I've been doing the process. And so you should do it the same way. First of all, your brilliance in making it more efficient has never been asked. So I lose that right out of the gate. So I'd rather say, here's what I've been doing and the reason why. If there's a better way that isn't going to impact these important things because of regulations, compliance, we want to comply with trust language. I'm gonna tell you the parts that matter, explain why. But the rest, have at it. This is the way I do it, just because it's the way I knew how to do it, and it gets the job done. If you can make it quicker, better, achieve a better result, please, and feel better for you, let me know. And then now you can, while we're both looking at it, literally go through the process and then write a better process for how it should be done. And when the day comes when you're handing it off, that same exact thing should happen with the next person. And
You
because
skipped
we
over the
want
secret
to have
sauce.
the ethos of we run on continuous improvement.
Well, careful, because we've talked about that
And there are
when we've
triggers,
talked about
for that. But see
yeah.
what I just said? I didn't say we look at the process every week and try to make it better. I said the next time when you're handing the process off, a year and a half from now. So we're not running the risk of over tinkering. Like the trigger there in that process might be when it's handed off from person to person. There is an opportunity that is a triggering event to have an opportunity to readjust it. Or if one of our metrics goes south, there is an opportunity, there is a trigger to say, go readjust your process. But otherwise, they should be locked down, because if they change every single day, you don't have a process. You just have whimsy that you put on paper.
Yeah. And that's the other added benefit to having things documented, because if you have a policy within your company to document things and publicize that change, which is question on the bad, by the way, you basically tell people, you are absolutely free to update any process and find efficiencies. You just have to update it. And as soon as you add that little step in there,
Yeah.
people are going to think twice about creating unnecessary change, because they're going to have to update a whole SOP behind it.
Yeah.
And they're just not going to do that work.
No, that's true. We're going to tamper your creativity. We're going to dampen that down by telling you got to document it afterwards. Oh, nobody wants to take notes. Forget it.
Turn that dial down a little bit. But you skipped over the secret sauce right there. You said it quickly when you're training people. You said the key word, why you do something the way you do.
Why?
And I think I hate to sound like a broken record on the show, but we're going to do it again. We're going to go back to navigation. This totally changed the way that I wrote SOPs in my last business. It's one thing to say this is how we do things, and this is why I personally feel it's the best way or the most efficient way. When I handed off an SOP to somebody else and I said, you are now the process owner of this, you're in charge of updating the SOP, training on it, everything involved with this process, you own it. I don't want to see it. I always said, and the way we wrote our SOPs, you have to reference the mission and how this helps us accomplish the mission. This process helps us accomplish the mission, so that if they were to find an improvement, a new efficiency, a better way to do it, that new way has to reference the mission. And that's the little caveat to say, okay, efficiency is one thing, but taking away from the customer's experience and our brand promise to the customer, we cannot sacrifice.
Yeah.
And we've talked about that story with accountants and stuff, those experience on this show, but that's how you start to be able to scale and free yourself from the day-to-day operations.
It is that small incremental level of complexity of thought around it that makes SOPs a powerful, powerful thing. You are looking at it to say, first, just from a value stream, when we walk businesses through that and say, what is the core value stream that you have here? Because you can't willy-nilly go touching that process. It is foundational. It is what our clients are paying us for. So money spent there, innovation spent there, time spent there to deliver that in a better way. It's far better than any efficiencies we're going to get out of tinkering around with supporting processes. And let's understand the hierarchy of the importance of processes itself, and then understand, knowing that, what does each process, to your point, do in order to support our mission Why does it exist in that hierarchy? And what is the outcome supposed to be? Because I can make this process better. Sure, I'll just yank the adding flour. Well, the process was to make a muffin that comes out of the oven at a certain temperature. You can't yank that step out. Well, you didn't tell me what it's supposed to do. I thought we were just throwing shit in a bowl and mixing it up. No, it's supposed to create a muffin. Well, then definitely don't take the flour out. That wouldn't, okay, bad thing, right? So you have to know what is that end result. And as long as then when you're handing it over to somebody saying, this is why it exists, and this is what the result should be, these are the components or steps that cannot be touched, have at it. Those people naturally will gravitate towards a more efficient process. Why? Because everybody's lazy. Kidding, not kidding. Because we want the most efficient process. Nobody wants to stand around here doing steps that don't matter to the job, the outcome, or the mission that we're all trying to achieve.
I resonate with that, with being lazy. I think I heard Bill Gates say something along those lines. I'll paraphrase completely out of context. He said he'd rather hire a lazy person over a smart person because they're going to find the most efficient way to do the job.
Mhm.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't
Yeah.
think that's a problem. I think that's actually a good thing. Now, you
Yeah.
have to have the incentive to like do the process. You can't be that lazy, but there's nothing wrong with finding a better way.
Some of the world's greatest inventions exist because a lazy person thought about the problem.
Toilet paper, they just didn't want to have to wash their hands. So let's put it on. Okay, that's not true. That's
You're laying down some gems here today, my friend. All right.
that's what I'm here for. All right, so
Yeah.
let's wrap this up because I'll say this. So if you want to see our process for creating SOPs, we have a whole template. I'd love to just share it with people. So either put it in the comments or send us a DM. I'll share the page with you and you can see how we create SOPs. So they're easy to find, easy to use, and easy to create. Love easy. That's awesome. We love you as our listeners and our watchers of the ether. Hearts, heart emojis.
Heart emojis.
Last step though. So I've shared this with a couple of people, and this is just kind of how we think about creating SOPs. And it's really helped provide clarity for them because I've also seen the flip side of over creation of SOPs.
Yes.
You don't need one for everything. But then also, if you do incentivize people to create an SOP around everything, you end up with duplicates, or in some cases, 5 different versions of the same process from different people. We definitely don't want that. So the way that we start is, you mentioned it before, your value streams. So creating a value stream process map, a flow chart of how things flow through your business is time consuming, but it's actually really, really important for especially your employees to see where they plug into different parts of the business, what parts of that value stream they impact, who else downstream they may impact, or upstream who impacts them. But once you have that, then you can create SOPs that are tied to that
It
instead
is
of
a
just
massive
willy-nilly.
tool in your building of the
Yes.
sense of camaraderie and teamwork, a team spirit, to let people see where one thing comes from into their world, out of their world, shows that there are stakeholders and end users of the product of their work, even if they never touch the end customer, because they're part of that whole ecosystem of processes.
Yeah. So if you do that, and then you can go box by box and put all of the appropriate SOPs tied to those boxes, and then store them in a way where they're, again, easily accessible, easy to use and understand, and then easy to create is the third piece of that. When you have those components, then you can actually leverage SOPs in order to help you grow your business. You can start to delegate efficiently. You can start to manage by outcomes and not micromanage. And it becomes really, really easy to scale that company. Until you have that stuff set up,
Brandon,
you're just creating confusion in your organization.
amen. Couldn't say it better if I tried. Let's put a pin in it.
Let's do that.
What's the
We'll see you
SOP?
back.
What's the SOP for shutting this thing down?
I think step 1 is I hit this red button over here, which brings up a screen, and I have to hit a second red button. I think that's a safety thing, so we don't just end it by accident.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and do that.
2-button push. Turn your